Hello, everybody. Just wanted to take a minute and welcome you to the Glad I Heard That podcast. My name is Eric Ferrell. We are bringing in Joe Voytush, so I'd like to introduce you to my friend Joe. He's going to be sharing with us today a story about his life, specifically as it relates to addictions. And so we're going to kind of talk about that as well. But to introduce you, Joe, one of the things that I thought about is the fact that whenever people experience you, in my opinion, and I'll say this personally for me, I experience the joy that you get out of your relationship with God. That is something that He is very much out there with. He doesn't hide it. It's something that you really bring to the table in every conversation and every relationship. So I want to thank you for that. When you think about the story that we're wanting to share today specifically, Joe, and we think about the addictions, for you, the addiction that you've struggled with is alcoholism, right?
Right.
But when you think about alcoholism in your life and the fact that you allowed Jesus to kind of intersect with that, because I feel like there was, from listening to you before, there's kind of like Jesus is here, alcoholism's here, and they're kind of just passing each other. You didn't let them connect to allow that to affect you. And so when this is happening and alcoholism is really running rampant in your life, like, can you tell us a little bit about like what that was like when it was at its worst?
I would say at a very young age, remembering I was 11 years old at a wedding and got drunk for my first time.
You were
11 years old, yeah. And so we got home and I tripped across the couch and they laughed, you know. So it was kind of like, wow, this is serious stuff. Well, there's a guy that I hang with now. He goes, there's a sweet spot. And if you can stay within the sweet spot, you know, everything is all right. Past the sweet spot and all bets are off. So
in regards to drinking specifically?
In regards to anything in life, I would consider any addiction, you get a sweet spot and then all of a sudden you pass the line.
Now, one of the things that I've heard you say, the way you've said it is, and I think this is kind of what you were just explaining, is at some point when you cross that line, you would talk about alcoholism kind of getting the better of you.
Yes.
So drinking would get the better of you.
Yes.
Is that the same thing as talking about when you cross that line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was something that you identified at some point, that this is getting the better of me. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. On the other side of that, you would say today that drinking does not get the better of you. Was that safe to say it that way?
I would say I cautiously attempt never to take another drink in my whole life. And I understand the consequences. So getting the better of me, oh yeah, it took me down. But now in my lifestyle today, even going into Kroger, you look down the aisle with the bright shiny lights, and there it is, the beer, the booze, the wine, and it's all center front. So
do you avoid those parts of the store?
Oh, I don't go down those aisles.
Intentionally?
You know, intentionally,
no?
I don't
Okay.
go down the aisles. They always say stay away from wet faces and wet places, because it only takes one. It only takes one drink to go back. Okay. And I've known several people in life, whether it be drugs or alcohol, something happens and they pick up and then they come back humbly, and sometimes they don't.
There's a time in your life where you were at the kitchen sink and you made a big promise to God. Can you tell us about that? Would you mind telling us about that moment?
I would have to fill in some of the
and that's okay.
stories of where I was. I had graduated high school, had started college, had what I thought was a really good relationship going, and the girl that I was in the relationship with, everyone loved her and stuff like that, but then she had got sidetracked in life and ended up into drugs and other things, and I had gone for several years, probably till from 22 to 29, not really dating serious or wanting to have a real serious relationship anymore. In that time, I started a job, was golfing and bowling and hunting and fishing and everything a man would love to do the rest of their life. And also the drinking was involved in all of those activities, you know.
Okay.
And so I got to the point in my life where I said, I got to get married at 30. My brother-in-law goes, hey, did you check out the gal at the doctor's office? And I said, okay, that's I'm a very planned, goal-oriented person. I want to do this. I want to run so many miles. I want to ride so many miles. I want to be at this place at this time in my life. So I said, okay, well, let's check her out. So I checked her out. And I said, okay, I could marry her, you know. So I pursued going out with this woman. And within less than a year, I was married. So I made it before I was 30, you know. So the goal was complete, check mark. So we had a honeymoon, we had the marriage, we had the honeymoon, we had the niceness. We were participating in church. Then she said, I want to go back to my bartending. And that's where some of the drinking started getting heavier.
While she was working at a bar?
Yeah, she was a bartender. So what do you do when you go to a bar? You start sitting there, and I was like Norm at the end of the bar, you know, give me a beer, give me another beer, right. You know. It lasted a year.
Okay.
And then I decided things weren't going right, and some things happened in the marriage. So the thing is what I did was I drowned myself starting in alcohol. So the bowling, the parties at other people's houses, just escalated. I had seen a counselor with my ex-wife, and I told her how my drinking had escalated. She goes, can you stop drinking for 3 days? And that's one of the questions I wasn't prepared to answer because I had crossed that sweet spot, you know. It had become a daily addiction. I didn't drink before 5 o'clock at night, but man, when that bell rang, I was like a greyhound out of the box racing after that rabbit. I tried one day. I said, okay, tonight I'm not buying anything. After that, the first day I left work, and I usually stopped at one of 3 party stores because the first party store, Fred's or something, he knew I was going to get a pint and a 12-pack. And then the second party store would be for Tuesday, and I would get a case and a pint or something, or maybe a fifth. And then on Wednesday, I'd stop at another party store, and I'd do the same thing because I didn't want anyone knowing. I didn't want these guys that I was willing to give my $20 to a day, knowing that I was a drunk because, you know, I had them fooled. All they wanted was my money. So I went from 5 o'clock to about 7 o'clock, and I couldn't stand it. So I ran up to the store and I got some beer.
This is part of
This is day one.
This is
of
part
the
of
challenge.
the can you do 3 days without?
So 3-day challenge, I blew it the
2.5,
first
3
day.
hours. Okay.
So I said, okay, I'll try it again a couple days later. And I did again. And I just couldn't make it past the first day. I couldn't even make it past the first 3 hours. The wonders of it is there's another person that was drinking and driving after a Christmas party at my old work, and he got nailed. And they weren't lenient. They threw him in jail for 3 days or a week or something, and he had to start going to AA meetings. So I went back there, and I talked to him, and I said, how do you stop, man? And he goes, well, you either get caught, or you start and then go to meetings, or you go to a meeting and don't get caught because it'll change your life. If you're ready to change your life, let me know. So I go and tried the 3-day challenge another time, and it didn't work. So I went back there and I said, man, what do I got to do? And he goes, well, you got to go to AA or something. So there was one right at the church that I was serving at on Friday nights. So I pop in there. So everyone goes around the table and they go, hi, my name's Bill, I'm an alcoholic. Hey, I'm George, I'm an alcoholic. Hey,
so it really
hey, I'm
does
Larry,
go like
I'm
that.
an alcoholic. You know, and it's just like what you see on TV, and it gets to my turn, and I go, I'm Joe, I'm just here gathering information. Yeah, for a friend. So, you know, not the friend, it was for me. So then the next week I go back, and I go, I'm just here checking it out. And then the third week I got there, and I go, you know, my name's Joe, I'm an alcoholic. And life changed there because I had to admit it. So I get to the Sunday that you're referring to.
That's the moment when you made a promise to God. We're back to that.
That weekend, February 20th of 1994, I had decided that in my notebook that this is the date. I'm going to pick the date. That's the date I'm going to take my last drink. This is what God wants me to do. I've cried out to him. I said, I need help. I got to that night, and it was about 10 o'clock, and I said, Lord, I'm standing at this corner sink, Oak Park 900 square foot house that I was raised in, that I bought from my parents. And I'm standing there at the sink, and I said, Lord, whatever you want to do with me, I'm all yours. And I dumped the booze down.
It's a big moment. Even still today, thinking back on it, Joe. It's all right.
And I said, my agenda is going to be for you. And I kept my promise. And the next day I woke up. I didn't have the shakes. I didn't have the craving. And my life had changed. And I made it through that day. And the next day, and the next day. It's only by God's grace that could happen. My prayer life changed at that sink. My prayer life weeks before was crying out to God, tell me, show me a sign, give me some audible words, and they weren't there. But they were through other people. But what I did was, my great-grandfather Stocko had a claim that he read the Bible through from start to finish. In AA, I got my first AA big blue book, and I read that from front to cover. So I get this big book, I read it through several times, stories are good, and then I thought, I'm going to read the Bible. So I started reading in Genesis, and I ended up in Revelation. And I put the date and the check mark in the Bible. And then I said, I didn't get nothing, So I read it through a second time, and I tried to take a little more interest in it. And then I said, after I got through it the second time, I said, okay, well, I got the prize for doing it the first time, and I let my parents know that I did it. Then the second time I read it through was to just keep from picking up a drink. So I read it through again, and I put the date down. And I just kept reading it. And reading it. This goes a couple years down the road after reading the Word and trying to absorb as much, and still attending church every week. And this happened a little bit later on, probably 6 or 8 years into my sobriety. And it happened after I was even here at Faith. And I was at another church, and they brought in some people from another recovery rehab center that focused on helping people when they got out of jail survive, get them back into the public. And I go up there, and there's a guy that's completely tattooed, and tear tattoos and stamps on his everywhere, I could tell, and on his knuckles and stuff. And it comes around, I'm Joe, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, I'm grateful. And here's this guy that's out of prison. He goes, I am a child of God, a great recovering addict. I was a heroin addict, but I'm a child of God. And I go, wow, what is this guy?
Wow.
And I get excited about that.
Yes, you do. Now, this is the Joe that we know today because he does get excited about that. He keeps Bibles in his trunk in case he meets anybody he needs to give one to, right? What is it that you think all men need to wrestle with?
I think the wrestling things that we all wrestle with is who I am. Who am I? What is my purpose? Who am I really? I mean, we can have all these titles of I'm a janitor, I'm a CEO, I'm a pastor, even saying a pastor. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a dentist, I'm a carpenter, I'm a retired person. But the important thing to know about what do we struggle with most? What should we realize the most? That we are a child of God.
Okay.
that we are made in His image. You know, there's people all different colors, shapes, sizes, with arms, without arms, legs, handicaps, everything. We're all made in His image for a purpose, and that's to give Him the glory.
Okay. You currently lead a few things here. Tuesdays is your jam. So Tuesday morning you lead a Bible study. And then the other thing you lead is Alcoholics for Christ on Tuesday nights. I'd like you to tell us brief story about how you came to lead this go-around.
We were talking at one of my Friday night meetings as to starting a Tuesday night someplace. And I said, I want to take that on. Don't do anything yet. And so I started praying to God. I said, God, what do you want me to do? You know, this is a commitment. I got to be there every Tuesday. I got to, I got my family. I got things going on. And I got Karen. What do you want me to do? And I kept praying and praying. And so I said, Karen, I got to start this. But I'm still not sure. The devil's tugging at you. Nah, you don't really need to do that. And so what I did was I prayed some more. And then Pastor Joe Casiglia had gotten back from a conference. And I went up to him and I whipped out my little Alcoholics for Christ book. And I said, Joe, I'm thinking I would like to start a meeting for substance abuse here at our church. What do you think? But don't say anything to anybody. I'm still praying about it. I don't know if I want to have the burden put on me yet. And so I got a call from Joe the next morning or the next afternoon. And he goes, Joe, funny thing happened. An old acquaintance came into our church Monday morning. So Sunday at 12 o'clock, I'm talking to Joe saying, I'm not sure. I want an audible from God telling me to go. Mm-hmm. And he goes, there's a guy came in. I know him. He needs a program. He's definitely an alcoholic. He wants to know where there's a meeting and other people like him he can get help from. And I go, okay, I guess that's confirmation enough. I will do whatever we have to do to get a meeting started.
Well, Joe, I can't say thank you enough. I mean, personally. I mean, even if this whole thing didn't record, I appreciated the time you and I got to spend together. So I appreciate you being vulnerable. I appreciate you being real. I appreciate you being willing to share your story with a lot of people. And don't forget to like or subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of these recordings as they are sent out. And leave a review in the podcast or YouTube channel. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I believe that's correct. I don't even know.